Hello again, and what is hip, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk about the top 5 PlayStation 4 games that we thought would never see the light of day. Or my top 5. I originally started this video as some of my favorite PlayStation 4 experiences, and by the time I picked out all of the games, one thing I noticed they all had in common is that, well, we all thought they never would see the light of day. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to compile these together on this video. So let's get right to it. So the first game is none other than Death Stranding. And yes, this is the PlayStation 5 copy. I sold my PlayStation 4 copy to get this copy. But this game was first announced in 2016, and there was murmuring of Hideo Kojima and his next masterpiece, but we didn't know what it was at that point, and 2016 was when we first found out, when they first showed the teaser trailer for this, and all of us were left in complete awe, and that is simply because we had no idea how to describe what we had just seen. We didn't know what this game was going to be. We didn't know what it was going to be about. We didn't know what we were going to be doing. The trailer for this game left more questions than answers, and each subsequent trailer that was announced and shown off did the same thing. And this happened for 3 long and just excruciating years. It was finally released in 2019 for the PlayStation 4, and wow, what a long wait. This game appeared in so many different advertisements, especially with like entertainers. You know, Conan O'Brien had a segment on his show where they went to Hideo Kojima Productions, their headquarters, and they showed him being recorded and put into the game. And we still didn't know what the game was going to be about at this point. Lo and behold, when we did get the game, everybody had completely different opinions on what they thought of it. And, you know, to be fair, if I was advertising this game, I would not put in the commercials, oh, this is a Amazon delivery driver simulator. I don't blame them for not sharing that information. But this is pretty much a delivery driver simulator, for better or for worse. However, I will never forget the moment when I popped this in and the opening sequence plays, you know. Norman Reedus crashes his motorcycle and there's a little bit of action, and you see this rain and you see things aging and dying right before your eyes. It's really cool. It's really trippy. It's cool because it's trippy. But then you get to the sequence where you have to walk to the city and you're listening to the soundtrack that had been playing in commercials. So you're listening to this music as you're walking over mountains and valleys and stuff to get to the city. It's a very surreal experience because nothing's really going on, but it's so atmospheric and so cool, and it is just directed, in my opinion, perfectly. It was at this moment where I thought, oh, this was worth the wait. Now, did I feel that way after playing more and more hours of this game? Maybe not quite as strongly. However, the experience as a whole, I think, was definitely worth the wait in regards to the story and the cinematography and all of that good stuff. It's definitely a game that made a statement, even though, you know, your English teacher probably would rate that statement a C- at best for not following any sort of thesis or giving a clear point. Yeah, it was, you know, just open-ended, but that's okay. Some of the best philosophers they leave their statements quite open-ended as well. So, you know, if you look at it from that point, yeah, man, maybe it accomplished what it was trying to do. But Death Stranding, a 3-year wait, and we're still trying to come to terms with whether or not that 3-year wait was worth it. And the sequel is looking to be potentially an even longer wait than this one. Ghost of Tsushima is a game that was quite special. very special. And it's back in the news lines again because they're coming out with a direct sequel, which is really exciting because I absolutely adore this game. But it was first showed off at, I think it was E3 in 2017, and they had a live musician on stage playing an instrument, and the screens and stuff had fields and everything. It was very, very cool, and then it showed off, I think it was the main character riding through the fields on a horse. Really beautiful, very beautiful. It gave off Breath of the Wild vibes in this trailer. And this game was so important because it came at a point in the PlayStation's life where there wasn't a whole lot in Sony's catalog of games to be coming out. You know, it was kind of empty. And so this was their one, look at me, here I am, this is the game. And again, it was announced in 2017, and we didn't see it again until 2020, another 3-year wait for this game. And during that time, I remember people were very excited when they first saw this, but then as time went on, the excitement kind of died down a little bit, and it poses the question, how soon is too soon to show off a game or to announce a game before release date? Is it a year? Is it within a year? Is it within 2 years? Is it 3 years? Is 3 years the cutoff? I think we're seeing the best example of that now with Metroid Prime 4. I mean, that was announced back in 2017, 18, 19. It's been like 7+ years since that game has been announced, and we still have not... I mean, we just saw gameplay footage for the first time this past year. I think they definitely announced that too soon. And I would argue that 3 years is also too soon to announce a game as well. Because again, it just, when a game is announced for that long and you don't see anything, the excitement dies down after a period of time. And unfortunately, this happened to this game. But once it was announced, or once it was finally released, a collective sigh. It was worth the wait, 100%. I mean, this game got unanimously 9s out of 10s, 10s out of 10s. And it deserved every single one of them. The opening sequence to this game, the first 30 minutes, is just jaw-dropping. You start out in this battle scene, and giant war, and you see death, and you're thrown right into the action, and it's just really, really wonderful, and the acting is so strong in this sequence. And this game was also really important because it brought over Japanese cinematography to the United States, something that we really haven't seen much representation for in recent years. And even since this game has been released, we haven't seen too much. We have, when this game came out, we had Criterion Collection, which had brought over some, wonderful Japanese releases to the West, but that was pretty much it. And so this game really kind of brought Japanese cinematography and its following inspirations into the limelight for the United States, which was really wonderful. And I'm hoping the sequel does the same. But a absolutely wonderful game, one that is 100% worth playing, and you can pick it up on the cheap. And it also has a remaster on the PlayStation 5, which is how I play it. So definitely pick up Ghosts of Tsushima. Notice how I didn't say the same thing about Death Stranding. Again, it's so divisive. Give it a try. Death Stranding, if you can find it on the cheap as well. The longest way out of all of them is this one right here, Final Fantasy 15. Now, this is not everybody's favorite Final Fantasy game. In fact, a lot of people dislike this game. I am of the minority. I love this game. I love it to death. It is one of my, and you're gonna hear me correctly, one of my favorite Final Fantasy stories of all time. It is so incredibly strong. Does this game have a slow start? Absolutely. But when you look at that slow start in combination with the rest of the game, you start to really appreciate the slow start when you go back and play the game a second time, which recording this video has inspired me to do. This game was announced in 2006. 2006, alongside Final Fantasy 13. Wow. Actually, I think it was 13 too. We didn't see anything of this game for many, many years. Following that, it wasn't until 2013 where they rebranded this game into Final Fantasy 15. It wasn't known as Final Fantasy 15 when it was first shown off. It was something else. But 2013, they rebranded it Final Fantasy 13, and we were like, all right, we're gonna see it soon. We didn't see it again for another 3 years. Another 3 years. 2016 is when this game was released. That is 10 years from first announced to final release. Such an incredibly long amount of time. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to the hype for many Final Fantasy fans. So that 10-year wait really kind of added to the pain and the hurt of this not living up to expectations. They did so much for this. They had a whole ecosystem for this darn game. I mean, there was a movie, Kingsglaive. There was other little smaller games surrounding this. I think there was even like a comic or some sort of graphic novel that went alongside this. It was too much. It was way too much. I'll be the first to admit. You should be able to enjoy a game without having to watch its movies that explain the story. However, the game itself is just so beautifully written, and it is, in my opinion, the last Final Fantasy game to have a truly epic soundtrack. The music in this game alone is some of the best music I've ever listened to. But you play as the 4 Heroes of Light, or this game's version of the 4 Heroes of Light, and you're just a band of 4 brothers. Not blood brothers, but 4 people who are pretty much like brothers. And they go about, they goof off in the beginning, and then reality hits and they have to grow up, and you're watching this journey of them basically maturing all the way to the end. And it's such a wonderful and sad and just a truly epic piece of work. And the gameplay, I thought, was incredibly fun. They brought back the open world. I mean, this was really also a pivotal point in Square Enix's kind of life too, where they were listening to fans and they're like, okay, we need to take Final Fantasy in a different direction, because they had started that with 13. It was the wrong way, and so they had to go a different direction, and that's where this ultimately led us to Final Fantasy 16, which really is just an evolution of this game in specific. But the fighting system in this game I thought was really wonderful. It's not turn-based. I like my turn-based, but nobody else seems to. But I enjoyed this battle system for what it was. The open world was I thought it was okay. It was empty, but the car traversal I thought was kind of fun. The characters are all wonderful. The story is great. The music is great. It's a really solid game, and it's, in my opinion, not worth it doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. So you can get this game for next to nothing now. You can get the complete edition. The DLC is fantastic as well. I highly recommend you pick that up. Pick it up. It's worth a shot. I mean, it was 10 years in the making. It's gotta be good. Detroit. This game, I popped this in to record some gameplay footage, and it had been my first time playing this game since it was released, so it had been many, many years, and I didn't want to stop playing. I ended up recording an hour of gameplay footage because I just couldn't put it down. But this game was officially announced. Let me just check my notes here. In 2015. And it was released in 2017. It was only a 2-year wait. That in itself was not that bad. However, there was a short film that was developed on the PlayStation 3. It was a tech demo of sorts. This was back in 2012. The show was called Kara, and it was basically just showing off the production of a robot, and then a robot becoming self-aware, essentially, and she wants to escape and all of that. That was the basic summary of this little short film. Detroit Become Human is an extension of that. The short film turned into this project. Kara is in this game. This game is about these robots that are being used by humans, to clean the house and do tasks that humans wouldn't want to do. This game is about them becoming self-aware and wanting to break free of that and wanting to be viewed as people. And this is by Quantic Dream, the creators of the games like Heavy Rain. And it's basically a pick-your-own adventure novel. So you have a whole bunch of choices. Every choice you make has an impact on the story, and it takes the story in different ways and all of that good stuff. The opening scene in this game is one of the best opening sequences I've ever seen in any video game. You start out as Connor, this robot who has been called to investigate a crime where another robot who was working for a family was taking the family's daughter hostage and holding her on the edge of a cliff and threatening to kill her or jump off if he was not given what he wanted. He had killed the daughter's mother and father, and so you have to quickly go through the house and investigate and all of that, and you quickly find out that he loved his family, but he was going to be replaced, and so he felt like he was being betrayed. And depending on what you discover and what you find in these rooms will change the dialogue options that you have with this rogue robot. And you can either kill him, you can have the robot kill the daughter, you can have the robot jump off the cliff. There's a whole bunch of different options that happen, and it is so cool. And that's just the very opening sequence. And then the game turns into multiple different stories. You play as Car, you play as another character, you play as Connor. And they all have different stories that intertwine, and it's just really, really beautiful. And there are some characters that you don't get to see the rest of their story because maybe you killed them off on accident when you really shouldn't have, Really, really wonderful. There's this one character in the beginning who I accidentally killed off, who I thought was supposed to be killed off. Like, I thought that was just how the story was going to go. I soon later found out that no, they didn't have to die. So, I mean, it's all so unique. Everybody's experience is different with this game, and it's so magical. And I remember when Kara, the short film, was first showed off, I mean, everybody loved it. And they all thought, wow, this should really be a game. And then when it was announced finally that this was coming to fruition, I was beyond excited. I was such a fan of Heavy Rain, and I think everybody else was excited too. It definitely lived up to the hype as well. But again, it's another story of just these long lost games finally coming to fruition on the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 is really, really home to that. It's a common theme, which really makes the PlayStation 4, it makes it quite wonderful. One of the reasons why it's so wonderful, because again, it is the console of reality, bringing all of these long lost stories to fruition. And the last one that goes along with that is The Last Guardian. And for those of you who were around, you remember this game. You remember the hype for this game all the way back on the PlayStation 3. It was originally announced in 2009, and it was supposed to be released in 2011 for the PlayStation 3. Similar to Death Stranding, we didn't really know what this game was about. They were very vague. The commercials didn't quite completely paint the picture of what we were going to be doing. All we knew is there was a dog thing, and there was a little boy, and you're going on an adventure. But really, that's all they needed to say, and that's all they wanted to say, because this is by the people who made Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. You know, very artsy games with very little direction, very open-ended. This follows that, but 2011 came around, and it never came out, and we didn't hear anything about this game for many years. And I remember every subsequent E3 after 2011, we were like, are we going to hear about The Last Guardian? Are we going to hear about The Last Guardian? And there would be one year where there was nobody saying that. We just figured it was a lost cause. And then it would pop up again. We'd be like, the PlayStation 4 had come out, or had been announced, and we're like, are we going to hear anything about The Last Guardian? Nothing. And then we finally, again, saw footage of this game, and it was announced that it was going to be coming out on the PlayStation 4. Oh my gosh, people were going through the roof. Nobody knew what to expect. I mean, it was a project that had been, what we thought, canned. And then it's all of a sudden coming back. I mean, the hype was unreal. And I was very much a Nintendo fanboy. You know, I didn't have any of the Sony consoles growing up for the most part, other than the PlayStation 1, which I had gotten at a used game store. But I didn't have any of the current gen Sony systems or the Xbox systems. I only had Nintendo, and then older Sony systems and Sega and whatnot. This was one of the games that made me delve into the Sony ecosystem. This and Persona 5. But this was one of them, and this was, I think, the second or the third PlayStation 4 game that I had ever gotten, right after Persona, and I think Uncharted, which came bundled with my system. When this game was finally released in 2016, December of 2016, so a whole, 5 years after it was supposed to be released, and then another 7 years after it was first announced. When it was released, it kind of got a lukewarm reception. I remember being shocked by that. People had differing opinions of this game, and I think the reception for Eco and Shadow of the Colossus were kind of similar. They were viewed as masterpieces back then, but I think they were games that really people looked back on and they said, oh no, that game was really wonderful. Although I do think that they were reviewed better than this one when they first came out, respectively. But as time has gone on, I think people kind of started to look back at The Last Guardian and realized, oh yeah, that was really a wonderful game. Now, this game was plagued with performance issues when it first came out, and that definitely contributed to the some of the negative criticism for this game. It wasn't until we got the PlayStation 4 Pro where they, I think they updated it. There was some PlayStation 4 Pro magic that happened that kind of increased the performance of the game, and now on a PlayStation 5, it's fine. But the opening to this game is so beautiful. There's very little said. There's a narrator. You play as the narrator as a kid. And, you're just thrown in. Your character wakes up and you see this dog creature, and it's scary. You know, its eyes are glowing, and it's dark out, and it's barking at you. It's all chained up. It's very, very... It's like, ooh, that's not the nice dog that I saw in the advertisements. But then as you just kind of explore, you see that, oh, it's been injured, and you take out some of the spears, and then you feed the dog, and it kind of starts to warm up to you. And then you find out, oh, you can call the dog. The dog's name is Trico, and it's not a dog, but it's a dog bird thing. and you can have it come over to you. You can climb on the dog, and then you release the dog from its chains. And I mean, it just opens up a whole bunch of unique platforming puzzles and all sorts of things. And it's such a beautiful journey between the dog and the character. I mean, you see their bond grow. You see the dog go out of its way to protect this little kid, and the little kid trying to protect the dog. It's really, really wonderful. And just seeing all of the unique little animations that this dog does. I mean, you'll see it kind of being playful. You'll see it patting things around with its paws. It's really actually quite impressive, the length that they went to make this as detailed as possible, to make this character as believable as possible. I mean, I fully believe Shriko, the dog, is a real thing because they really paint it to be like that. And there was this one part where Shriko has to jump into water, but it doesn't want to jump into water because it doesn't like water. And it does so in a very realistic way, like it's trying to, but then it doesn't. And then you find out, okay, let me just throw some food in the water. And again, the dog looks at it, kind of hesitant, and it's like, all right, I can't resist food, and it jumps in. It's just quite cute, really, and quite realistic. You know, I'm sure I could get I don't have a dog, but if I had a dog and it didn't like water, I could get it to jump into the water if I threw some food in there. But just a really beautiful game, and one that definitely deserves your time. And it's so cheap now. I think this is one of those games that, as time goes on, will probably become a little harder to find. Just like the Shadow of the Colossus, that one was hard to find for a while too, and then they did the re-release, and now it's not hard at all. But yeah, those are just 5 games that I personally really love, and each one of them in different ways on the PlayStation 4, and 5 games that we kind of just thought would never see the light of day, or you know, we didn't know what to expect because their production times and their times to release after announcement, it was just so long. The wait was so incredibly long, and that's what really makes this PlayStation 4 so wonderful, because again, so many games were released on it that we had waited for years for, and every one of those games was so unique and so imaginative. I feel like that's missing on the PlayStation 5. And in many ways, I feel like the PlayStation 5 is the perfect PlayStation 4 console. Genuinely. It's quite sad, because I feel like some of that creativity is lost. You know, we see a lot of sequels, a lot of stuff like that. Not a lot of new IPs. You know, we got games like Astrobot, which really does bring back some of that sense of magic. But there's not many exclusives on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S and all of that. I feel like we got to get that back, because going back and making this video and looking at all of these games really made me realize how special Sony can be. Because I think we get lost, you know, especially Nintendo fans, including myself. Like, Nintendo is the only one who really makes creative experiences and stuff like that. They think outside the box, but Sony did too. Not so much lately, but they are, again, with Astrobot and a couple. That's not to say every release isn't like that. Of course, there are other releases by them that are just as magical, but they seem far and few between. I'm waiting for that next Last Guardian, you know, that next Ghost of Tsushima that is not a direct sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but rather something new. Death Stranding, same thing. Again, we're having Death Stranding 2, but I don't want that. I want something new. We see the same thing in movies too. Everybody's making sequels and remakes. As much as I love sequels and remakes of games that I love, I want to love new games. So bring them on. But maybe we'll have to wait another 4 or 5 years, or however many years we waited for that to come along. But let me know what you guys think of the PlayStation 4 library. I'd love to know, were there any other games that I didn't point out here, and I know there are, that had super long waits for. Maybe not exclusively on the PlayStation, maybe on Xbox or Nintendo Switch. You know, Tears of the Kingdom, that's definitely one that comes to mind. Breath of the Wild. Let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.